So I just came back from watching James Gunn's Superman for a third time, and now I think I can properly articulate why I think this is the greatest adaptation of Superman of all time. And no, it has nothing to do with how sexy this cast is. But before we get into it, I'd just like to quickly say thank you guys so much for 10,000 subscribers. I've been making videos since high school, so it's been about 6 years now, and it didn't feel like I was really getting anywhere, but now it feels a lot more like real. So I really do appreciate you guys for subscribing. Sorry guys, I wasn't trying to bawl my eyes out on camera, so I'd just like to quickly say again, thank you for being here and helping me build this community. But without further ado, let's get back into the video. Alright, let's just hop into it. David Corenswet is the definitive Superman, and I don't say that with any disrespect to Henry Cavill, Christopher Reeves, or any of the other Supermen that came before him, but it really just comes down to the fact that this version of Superman has the benefit of taking all of the good things of the other Supermen and combining them to make something that feels fresh, yet familiar. For example, in my opinion, the best aspect of Henry Cavill's Superman was his ability to aura farm, whereas the best aspect of Christopher Reeve's Superman was his capacity for good and prioritizing saving people. Now, we can actually see the combination of these two traits come together in David Corenswet's Superman during the bridge scene. Because in this scene, we basically see Superman catch a toppled building all in order to save one lady, and as this singular lady is making her narrow escape, she turns back to see Superman rising from the dust, thus creating one of the most cinematic Superman shots of all time. And yes, I am including comic books, animated projects, and other Superman movies. This was absolute But do you see what I mean? If this was just a rehash of Christopher Reeve's Superman, then we would have definitely got the save, but we wouldn't have got that pose. He would have just been like, peace.
There you go.
Again!
No, I'm sorry. Only one ride to a customer.
Superman!
Bye.
Superman, it's me!
And on the flip side, if this was just a rehash of Henry Cavill's Superman, then David Corenswet definitely would have let the girl die. Like, he would have looked cool while doing it, but he would have definitely let her die. As you guys can see, when we have the save but we don't have the aura farm, it is still wholesome and it is still Superman, but it's just lacking a certain oomph. And when you get the aura farm without the save, then you get something that's just not Superman and it's not impactful. But when you realize that both traits are actually equally important and you take the two and combine them, you get something that is truly grand, mesmerizing, and inspiring. But you also get something that informs us about how this Superman operates in his world. Well, Ty, what do you mean by that? Well, I'd like to ask you to get into the mindset of one of the people that was in the building that was getting attacked by the kaiju. Now, this might be a little bit difficult because if you remember that scene well, you would know that all of those people didn't run for the emergency exit. They got out of the way of the fire, but they kind of just sat there after that. Now, again, it might be a little bit difficult to understand why they just be chilling there so nonchalant, but you really got to put yourself in the mindset of someone who lives in Metropolis in the DCU. Not only have they known about Superman for 3 years, but they've got to know him up to the point where they are giving him free food on the streets. Rest in peace, Mahali. But anyway, that's probably the exact reason why these people are so unfazed in the face of danger whenever Superman is around. Because for the last 3 years, whenever he's had to deal with a superpowered individual, probably like Cersei, he has dealt with it with zero casualties from humans to dogs to squirrels. And now on top of all of that, after he saves the day, you see that he still has the energy to hit a fucking pose like this. Now you're telling me if you saw that, you wouldn't think that this man could do literally anything? Not just because he made sure everyone was safe, but also because by the end of it, he wasn't even breathing hard. But that's why people are never really that scared whenever Superman is around, because Superman understands that on top of saving people, aura farming is a great way to communicate the idea that today I saved the day, tomorrow I'll save the day, and the day after that I'll save the day, 1,000 times over I will save the day. He operates as the symbol of hope in the DCU, and that's how he gets it done. But it wasn't just these big, awe-inspiring shots that made David Corenswet the definitive Superman to me. I think it was also the more subtle things, like the way he delivered these dorky lines in a very sincere manner.
Crypto! What the hey, dude?
Which I think was inspired by Tyler Hoechlin's run on Superman and Lois.
Thanks. My mom made it for me.
Now, David Corenswet had a lot of lines like this sprinkled throughout Superman, and I think it really helped to characterize him as this big, lovable oaf. And one of my favorite lines throughout the whole movie was in the beginning of the movie when he was talking to number 4, I believe, and he said, "No can do, number 4, gotta get back to the fray."
Oh, okay.
I literally say that all the time now for no reason. Like, if I'm talking to my fiance and I'm about to hop in the shower, I'm like, "Sorry, my love, gotta get back to the fray."
Oh, okay.
And I think this point actually speaks to the fact that what made this Superman so special wasn't just James Gunn's ability to pick out the best aspects of the previous Superman and kind of stitch it together, but it was also David Corenswet's ability to actually execute upon this vision. Now, in addition to David Corenswet being the definitive Superman, this movie also places him in the best live-action iteration of the DC Universe of all time. Now, I know that doesn't actually sound that impressive because there are only 2 other live-action iterations of the DC Universe, and I can't really say that either of them is particularly good. But, hyperbole sells, and I really need that Superman steel case. But anyway, I knew that the DCU was about to pop off once I saw that this movie started with text. And I know that doesn't seem very significant, but it really was to me because it reminded me so much of the captions that we see throughout comic books, especially the ones in the beginning that kind of give us a hint about what's to come. In Superman, it was 3 centuries ago, the first metahumans appeared on Earth, ushering in a new era of gods and monsters. 3 decades ago, a baby from outer space crash landed on Earth, and so on until we got to 3 minutes ago, Superman lost his first battle. Now that was in the movie, but in the comics it might sound something more like this. In hindsight, there were signs, omens of the terrible things to come. The first one came with the rains. With the early snows blocking its mouth, the rains flooded the Gotham River, actually reversing its course for 3 full days. The second sign came soon after. A lion at the Gotham Zoo gave birth to a deformed cub. A cub with 2 heads. Rivers running backward. Beast born wrong. We should have seen it coming. Now, in terms of tone, these 2 weren't similar at all, but that's actually not why I brought this up. I brought up this intro specifically because I remember reading it when I was like 14 and being like, and after reading the intro for Superman, I felt the exact same way. After only 30 seconds of this movie, it was already able to bring me back to being a kid reading comic books again, and it was just magical. But again, that was only the first 30 seconds, and there was just still so much more to come. Like in the apartment scene where Superman was telling Lois that he was not here to conquer anyone, but she was like, "Wait, shouldn't you go do something about that Solaris-looking thing?" And without even looking up, he was like, "Oh yeah, that's just an interdimensional imp. The Justice Gang got it." That was the most comic book shit ever. Because in comics, I feel like it's a very common practice for writers to randomly throw in cameos and references that they know 50% of the audience will not understand. And I am not excluding myself from that. Sometimes I read a comic and I'm like, what the hell did I just read? At the same time, though, I don't actually completely hate it because it does make the world feel more lived in and like there is some history there, and I feel like it does the same for Superman because when he says that so nonchalant, like he is just rolling his eyes at that imp, it does imply that there is some kind of history there and that he does not see it as a threat. To bring it back to my main point though, implied history and faithfulness to the comics isn't actually what makes James Gunn's DCU the best live-action iteration of the DC Universe. Because at the end of the day, the DCEU also had implied history which contributed to its world building. And the Arrowverse actually wasn't afraid to lean into its comic book roots, like at all. Also, yeah, I did get a little bit hungry, but I'm not going to take a bite of this on camera. I've read your guys' comments. You guys are immature. No, but what really separates James Gunn's DCU from its predecessors is the fact that this movie seems to be generating mainstream appeal. The general audience seems to love Mr. Terrific, and Guy Gardner seemed to put the Green Lanterns back on the map. And neither of these characters are a part of the Superman mythos, so whether people know it or not, they are excited to see what's to come from the larger DC universe, which further adds to my point that this is the greatest live-action iteration of the DC universe that we have ever seen. Now, usually I wouldn't use popularity and interest as an explanation as to why something is the best, but in this particular case, I think we kind of have to acknowledge the fact that this is the only live-action iteration of the DC universe that has ever generated this type of buzz outside of the fandom. Now, with all of that being said, I hope I was able to convince you that this is the greatest Superman movie of all time, not just because David Corenswet is the definitive Superman and he was placed in the best live-action iteration of the DC universe that we have ever seen, but also because this Superman movie will probably go on to save all of DC Studios and Warner Bros. As we know it. So James Gunn, can't really ask for much more other than Batman with wide eyes. We saw that you can do it with Mr. Terrific. Just give us Batman with wide eyes. But with that being said, let me know what you are dying to see in the future of the DCU, but you can't say Batman with wide eyes because I already said that one. You can say something like Sydney Sweeney in every female role, but just know I will not like the comment, but I will be judging you. Yeah, that's right, I read your comments. But anyway, I'm going to try to get this video out as soon as possible, so I will talk to you guys in the next one. Peace.